Oh, yeah.
Stop.
Here's a 20-hour ticket. Have fun. You're not going to get handed that 20-hour ticket every day.
Different this time. I told myself that money would never be a factor. Now I'm laughing at Benny Hanna's with benefactors.
So introduce yourself.
My name is Kristen Breslin. I am a Toyota Master Tech. I've been with Toyota about 10 years as of August this year.
Very cool.
It's a lot of fun. Being the only woman in my shop and the only woman in the 3 dealerships I've been at so far has been challenging but very rewarding.
That's pretty cool. So, you know, Toyota is probably my favorite brand by far.
All right.
I know a lot of people that work for Toyota,
Cool.
and they are the most receptive and most willing to help the aftermarket.
Yes.
So while I know you are a dealership technician, thank you from all of us, because anybody that supports their brand supports all of us.
Oh,
So,
100%. And even I started like 6 years, I was at an aftermarket parts company. So
Right.
I did nothing but deal with the mechanics and deliver parts. I mean, me and my dog drove around for 4 years, like just Chick-fil-A
Oh, that's awesome.
and hunting out all the treats around the dealerships and the places. And she knew the route. She was like, oh, you better stop at Swiss Farms because I need a treat. Like,
That's
so it was a good
badass.
time learning the parts. And like,
Right.
I didn't think that this was going to be my journey, but the parts store, I guess it was like the recession of like 809 around then. I started seeing the job go down. I started seeing the one of our stores close. There was 9 stores. I believe right now there's only 1 store left. It was Parts for Imports.
Wow.
And actually I was at an all-female store. There was like all 3 girls were running it. And actually, me and my boss used to have happy hour every day at 4 o'clock, you know, and we're cheersing like, yeah, we're going to ride this bitch down like the Titanic. And I'm like, this is great. And then I was like, I go home and I'm like, no, I'm only like 25. I can't.
Right.
Like, I can't just sign up to wait, you know. So I went to UTI and checked out the school and enrolled the next day, quit my job, started school. And I mean, I hit the ground running and haven't looked back.
That's badass. So what convinced you to go that direction? What was it that led you that direction?
I will say I've always enjoyed cars, motorbikes, quads, stuff like that, getting dirty, tinkering with stuff. My dad always had me working with my hands.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily like, go fix a car. I think just the knowledge I had with the parts and the mechanic talk. I mean, everything's like, what's up, babe, honey, dear, like all that stuff,
Right.
you know, hey, nice rack, when I'm literally handing a rack to them. Like, you know, it
Right.
kept it fun. Probably was complete sexual harassment at the time and still is, but you know, I signed up for it. But I think it was, I had a friend that went to UTI in Arizona, probably 8 years prior to that. And like he made it to Mercedes and paid his way down there. Then they repaid him. And I'm like, well, if he can do it, like he was a big stoner back in the day. I'm like, well, I know I got this then. So
Right.
I just kind of like toured the school, and it was in between classes. I don't know if you've ever visited UTI or not.
not.
So it's like insane when everybody's trying to get to class, and as soon as everybody's in class, it's a desolate highway. You know, you're just like,
Yeah.
So I'm there, there's nobody around. I'm like, well, this is cool. I'm seeing engine parts, and I'm like, this is really interesting. I'm going to check it out. Class lets out, and like 7,000 kids just come barreling through, and I
everywhere.
was like, what did I sign up for? Like, what am I going to do here? And I just remember being like driven. I had to make
Right.
a change in my job. I needed a career. If I wanted to buy a house, if I wanted to, you know, have my own stuff one day, I needed to do something. And I really like working with my hands too. So, I mean, it fit apparently.
Right. Well, I mean, you've been super successful at it, right?
I have.
And so when you think about this career, right? Like everybody, one of the things we often talk about is it's one thing to have a very altruistic view of our industry as a whole, but there's a lot of people who don't have that view. What do you think the challenges that we face today are?
What do you mean? Like, are you speaking for like just the industry as a whole,
As a whole?
techs, or
Yeah,
just everything?
You know, I think as a whole, but primarily techs, right?
Oh, yeah, the tech shortage is real. And I think everybody has a misconception, or a lot of, I don't want to say younger kids, but just people coming in. A lot of people are like, oh, I want to tune, and I want a hot rod, and I want to
Right.
lift and lower. And it's not that. I mean, I work at Toyota, so I'm working on Corollas and,
Yeah.
you know, grandmoms and grandpops' cars and Ubers. And like, these are just regular cars that are driving all over. You just need to keep them safe. And a lot of people are like, oh, I just want to, you know, do the West Coast Customs. And I'm like, yeah, you're not going to do that tomorrow. You want to, go ahead.
Right.
But push, you have to fight. You have to go make your path and create it. And I feel that I have a really good attitude. I try to stay real positive. I've had a lot of setbacks and pushbacks and all kinds of ways in my life. And it was just like, all right, that didn't work. get up and go find something else.
Yeah.
And just, I give it up to my first service manager, Jim Montella. He welcomed me in with open arms. And at my interview, he literally, the office had windows and like 19, it was a shop with 85 bays. So it was a huge dealership.
Wow.
It was a team of Langhorne. And I just remember seeing like 19 guys walking by, peering in the window, like, what the fuck you doing with her? What you doing with her? And he's like, I didn't hire a girl, I hired a technician. And I was like, wow, like, to just have that respect for me when I'm just starting out. I started out right on the lube rack with everybody else. I had to, I made $9 an hour, and I just started throwing ASEs and state licenses and anything that everybody else can do as well. You just have to do it. That's what I think a lot of people are missing.
You took the initiative to do it.
Yeah.
Though,
yeah.
Right. And so I think that a lot of people don't have that initiative.
I agree.
Right. And you bring something up because you said I kept it positive. Right. I think a lot of people, right, they go at it and they say, well, I didn't get paid what I should have been paid on this, and this didn't go right because of this, and they said this about me.
Right.
And the next thing you know, they've got a problem with everything.
Everybody, everything.
Yeah.
It's.
And, I want to be careful how I say this. I think that dealerships, and don't get me wrong, like, we've caught some flack for saying, like, I got into an argument on Reddit a while back because somebody was saying that, like, dealership training is by far way better than anything you can get in the independent world. And I said, bro, have you ever been to an EPROM class? And he's like, well, it's EPROM. And I'm like, dude,
Exactly.
hold up. I mean, you can't even compare those two things.
No. And
so I think in a lot of ways, the dealership can get a toxic culture. Have you experienced that? Have you seen that? Because I think that, the manufacturers have unlimited resources compared to independent shops, right?
Agreed.
And the dealerships, as a byproduct of that, get to reap the benefits.
Agreed.
And so when you look at an independent shop, going into a community college, going into UTI or wherever it is, and you go in and you say, hey, listen, I want to support this school. I want to get some folks from this school to start bringing them in and letting them shadow in the shop.
Right.
That dealership always is going to have the upper hand.
Oh, of course.
But it often feels like to many of the instructors, and you can speak to this, but I know that the instructors around the house are like, hey, this effing sucks. Because they're chopping through them like they're minced meat.
Yeah.
Because they come in and they put them on the lube rack. They beat the crap out of them. They keep them on the lube rack for 4 or 5 years. Now, you said something, though. You said, look, I was motivated. I was going to do it.
Yeah.
You made a decision. Look, it doesn't matter if they're going to keep me there or not. I'm going forward no matter what. Is it the mindset, or is there a cultural issue in dealerships today?
I want to say it's both.
Okay.
100% the dealership is cutthroat. It's flat rate. I started out, I was only on the lube rack for 2 months, and I was working like 3 to 9, I think. So I was in school 6 to 1 and then 3 to 9. And within 2 months, they were like, it was either going to be you or him, and we were going to put you on team already. And I'm like, I'm still in school. Like, I don't even have a tool. Like, I have, 25 tools right now. Like, what do I do? And, that guy ended up getting fired, and they're like, well, here, you can get on the team now. And so all of a sudden it's like check engine light, brakes, trans. I mean, I'm like doing my first set of brakes one day. I'm like, this is a lot of fun. And then like, I didn't know to clean the rust off, cause I hadn't done it yet. Nobody showed me. I'm on my first or second. He's like, why didn't you clean the rust off? I'm like, well, okay, I'll do it now. He's like, that's before you cut it. I'm like, okay. Well, now I see like 90% of people don't clean the rust off. I mean, I take like care. I'm like, put a little lube here, take it all. I'm like coddling it, caressing it. Come on, rotor, get on there. You got to stop this car, Right. And I think that it does suck to hear that these techs do get ran through, because I agree with it, because I watch it happen. Right. I mean, we are actually a mentoring dealership, and I see, so they're bringing in like the juniors and stuff. I think instead of them going to their tech school at high school, they're coming in for an hour or two. Now they're getting, I feel like it's also a problem, but they're revamping it as well. So we don't even have Express anymore. We don't have a lube rack. We don't have any of that. Everybody's just kind of there.
Right.
And then they have like this kid who's 17 working next to 2 or 3 kids. He's completely hourly. He's kind of just picking up an oil change and a rotate, and he doesn't have any tools because he's a kid in school. So they're letting him kind of just shadow a bunch of people. And then I think during the summer they have the option, like I think we took on maybe 6 techs over like the end of the school year, March to like May. And we hired 2 of them and they worked all summer. I think one was a senior and his dad had a shop, so he ended up going to work with his dad. But like for school purposes, the dealership thing worked for his class. So it's an ever-changing industry, but I see the cutthroatness. I mean, it went from that 2 months on I was hourly to, hey, you're flat rate now. And I'm like, okay. So now it was literally just give me everything because I need to make my money as well.
You gotta be able to eat.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And you have to start buying tools, which people don't realize. And a lot of people get comfortable with, the tech they're working next to is a master and he has everything. And my biggest thing was, you borrow something 3 times, you better buy it. Yeah, that's the rule of everybody. And, then this kid quits and they're like coming over borrowing, I used to borrow this off of this guy. And I'm like, well, here, you can borrow it, but when I'm off for a week next week when I go to SEMA, you got to figure that out. Like,
exactly.
And it's a real, I was in there in the class earlier and he's talking about the little gas tester I'm like on Amazon, like, that's right, don't have that, and it's like, little things that instead of spending 25 minutes going through the special service tool drawer to find the, the whatever the vial is, just let me buy the $12 one. I can shoot the gas in my own thing, because how much gas are we seeing that's wrong these days with Wawa and diesel and, so again, having your own tools and also being motivated to get that, because gosh, if I walked out today, I'd have to tow my box like, well, here's my whole life, because, I've earned that. Yeah.
Well, and I will never forget an experience I had. I had a car come in from a dealership. I'm not going to tell you what brand it is because I don't know. But
it was a Ford. You can say it. It's always a Ford.
It's always a Ford.
But it was an eye-opening experience, because the car came to us and it came in and the man was a friend of ours and he requested 4 tires, and he said, I need 4 tires. Can you get them? And I said, why do you need tires? And he said, Lucas, we've been friends for a long time. Just get my tires. And I said, okay. So I get tires and I put tires on the car. And I noticed when I got done that I still had a TPMS light on. And I said, hey, by the way, I noticed when I put the tires on that the TPMS light was still on. So I pumped up the spare tire and I double checked everything. It may be leaking. I didn't let it down and check it, but I just wanted you to know if it comes back on, we need to check the spare. Mm-hmm. And he said, those sons of bitches. And I'm like, what? He said, they told me all 4 tires had pinholes in them, so I needed tires.
Oh, my God.
And so I did a little bit of research, and I dug through and ended up having somebody that came to work for me that had worked for this dealership. And he said, man, that is the culture of that organization. And he said, so like we got paid bonuses. And we talk about bonuses all the time. But he said, we got paid bonuses when we returned the gallon of coolant we didn't use because we mixed it with additional water.
Wow.
We got paid back for stuff we put back into parts that we didn't use for the vehicle, because he said their excuse for it was we know you're going to do this anyway, and we know that there's a lot of parts you probably don't put on. If you'll give them back to us, we'll give you a portion of that money back.
That's crazy.
And he said, so what's screwed up about it is they're still billing the clients for it.
Of course
now,
they are.
this is a big chain dealership. And I have brought this up to some of the, I don't know if you'd call them executives, but they're the parts and service directors for the nation on some of these brands, right? Yeah. And they're like, we know. And we recognize that our dealerships are a liability. And they said, in the same way that independent shops are a liability for us. You fixed our car. It broke and killed somebody. And now we're both in hot water, right? Do you see that cutthroat nature causing that? And that is it commission that causes that? Have you experienced that where you're at?
I have experienced 2 sides to that. So my first dealership, 7 years, we didn't have any of that bonuses and stuff like that, as far as like, how there's like the BG and all the products with the stickers and stuff. Like, we had the products, but our manager opted out of the whole
spiff program,
spiff part of it. So I learned how to do everything straight factory. Toyota recommends, plugs at 120, trans service at 100, coolant at 100. Like, everything was Toyota. Like, I don't flush anything. Yeah, I'll do a brake flush at 80K, or if it's dark and needs the fluid. But I'm not like, it's a 2020 with 35K, let's brake flush and fuel induction. I am like anti that. And then when I got to this shop, they do the sticker programs. And I mean, I like participate, because if I don't sell it, everybody else is going to sell it. So it is cutthroat in that way, where like people are just pushing that. But I'm so like, I just had like a car 15 hours on a 115 or 115K 2020 Corolla. It's one of these cars that like chases the repo cars around at night.
Yeah.
I mean, I drove it. It needed a bearing, water pump, brakes around. Like they bought it all, but it's like I didn't flush nothing. Give me the parts. Let me make this car safe. I look at every car as if like, all right, I have 3 sons. I'm gonna have to buy a whole bunch of used cars in the next coming years, and like when I lube every bolt, I'm like anti-seize on this because like. When it breaks and rusts, then I got to drill it out. And it's like, I see people watching me and they're just like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm prepping this as if I'm going to look at it to buy it in 2, 5, or 15 years. Like, you just don't know. And like, it's a different world out there.
Well, that's really refreshing for me personally. And David and I have had lots of talks about this. I hired a dealership tech one time.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, like, there wasn't a single bolt that man put in that did not involve an impact. Right. And like, so I cleaned up a bunch of daggum messes.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. Because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping.
And so we, one of the things that we talk about on the show all the time is that we believe we're advocates for our clients, right? Mm-hmm. The consumer is our client, the person that owns the car, and it doesn't matter whether it's a Toyota, it doesn't matter who, right?
Yep.
We are their advocate. It's our job to protect them. It's our job to make sure that car's
100%.
safe. So it's refreshing to know that you have that mentality. Do you think the other people in the dealership have that mentality as well?
I think some do. I think I call myself like the bridge between the generations because I have a lot of the older guys that have been doing this for 20, 30 years. Then I have kids that have only been doing this 2 to 5 years, and I'm in like the middle age range where like I have a great solid work ethic and I started this at a later age. So like I came into it as like I did it because I don't want my friends and family to get screwed. I don't want my mom who's going to a shop. My mom will buy anything. She will buy tires every oil change if you tell her to. So no, mom, you give me your car. I will get you what you need. Like I've been, I take care of all that. I have people that are driving 2 hours to bring their cars to me and stuff like that. I literally, the one guy, he's the member of the Philadelphia SWAT, met him. He's like, here you go. I want you on my car every time, no matter what. And people are like, how'd you meet? I'm like, I don't know. I'm doing my job and I'm standing behind my work with solid pride. Like that is just, I do that, and I try to teach a lot of kids, but as soon as they don't listen, I have to cut them off because I'm like, if you're going to waste my time and I'm already in a job doing something, and then it's like, hey, how do you disable this rear park and brake? And I'm like, well, I have a tech stream and it's on my laptop because I have my own tools, so it's faster for me to get it. And I'm like, you can go get a tech stream and do it. Oh, well, John said to just take the bolts out and do this. Okay, so then an hour later he comes back. Is there anything else I have to do? And then I took the bolts out, and I'm like, I use a tech stream. You didn't listen to me, so be gone, And I'm like, I tried, but I tried to teach you, but if you don't listen, I'm sorry, I just have to let you, and then I watched him now 3 months later, and he's like, put a brake bulb in this 4Runner and it won't work. And I'm like, oh. Did you look at the repair manual? I mean, and people weren't helping me in my days either. Like my first team leader was great. He brought me under his wing. It was like a broken wing though, he was like, he didn't give me anything for free. And I totally love him for that because it taught me how to do this on my own. He gave me keys to his toolbox and I was able to go borrow whatever I needed. And I'm like, all right, okay, I need them. And I literally built my list off of everything we were using. I do have the luxury that I'm working on Toyotas and Lexuses 90% of the time. So my metrics is pretty much where I'm at. I don't need like a billion different, oil filter housings and stuff like that. But to start out where I couldn't just walk up to him and be like, PO420, what do you do? He would have hit me with a wrench if I went up to him like that.
Well, and that is so important. Yeah. Right? Because like trial by fire is really the only way to truly learn. Only way. Because you've got to make those mistakes and you've got to go through it on your own because you don't learn if you don't. No. Right? And I just went through this with a technician that works for me yesterday. Okay. Right? And saying like, hey, look, dude, you're looking for a silver bullet. You're looking for an answer. Mm-hmm. You're not looking for what's right and what's wrong. Mm-hmm. You're looking for someone to hand you something. Oh, yeah.
Stop. Here's a 20-hour ticket. Have fun. You're not going to get handed that 20-hour ticket every day.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's not real life.
No.
So you bring up that you've seen a generational change in the shop.
Yes.
What's the biggest thing you note in that?
The lack of respect, the lack of communication. I am a very social person, so I can talk to people, or I can also read a room, and if it's meant to be the silent, I can read that room as well. But I feel like the newer techs aren't paying their dues. They're not paying attention. Like when I was going to school, I didn't have a bay, I didn't have a toolbox. It was, okay, you leave at 3, I'm coming in. I mopped every bay I even touched. I cleaned your oil caddy. You know what I mean? I wasn't like, I wasn't brown nosing. I was just paying my dues because that's helping you out. You are letting me use your space while you leave. And even if I didn't even do an oil change, I would, quick mop up the floor, make it look nice, make them know that I'm like respecting their space.
Right.
And it's like nowadays, these kids come in, they don't, you start a brand new job, the kid that works next to me, I said hello to him for like the first 3 weeks every day. I'm like, good morning, how you doing? Good morning. Well, then, I didn't one day and nothing. And I'm like, okay, well, then, fuck you. Sorry.
Right.
You're going to need me before I ever need you is how I've paid my dues to it. I think the lack of respect and the lack of communication, and I feel like the iPod generation has totally, dumbed that down. Everybody's so used to just, I'll text you hello, but I won't speak to you. I won't look you in the eye and say hello. So it's like this disconnect of like,
really?
Yeah, oh, big time. Cause you see there's nothing but, younger people coming up. Obviously there's not many people that are like 53, like gonna go be a tech today. Let me start over. They're like, no, I made it to where I am and I'm going where I got to go. But the younger kids, I wish they would just realize, I'm not saying I want you to come in and clean my bay. I'm not saying, fill up my washer fluid, but if I go on vacation for the week, I shouldn't come back to dirty oil jugs and all kinds of stuff all over my toolbox. Have enough respect to just stay off my stuff. There's a table, or maybe wipe it up and maybe I wouldn't know you were there. I mean, It's like childhood lessons, like, make that mess, clean it up. Nobody knows you were there.
Well, and so something that we've seen, we do an apprenticeship program.
Okay.
Right. And so we were spoiled because Bridget was our first apprentice.
Okay.
And she was with us for 5 years.
Nice.
Right. And so, long story short, I mean, she was such a hard worker that no one else could even remotely compare. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And so these other kids were coming in, they were like, I don't think you understand this. I signed up to be an automotive apprentice. I don't sweep floors. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do.
Right?
You signed up to print papers and find tape and fix a printer. I mean, all of that goes into the community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can't check out from that.
No,
right? And
no.
so it has definitely been something I've noticed that this next generation may be looking at this much differently, almost like an entitled or a what's the word you would use, David?
Can we say white privilege?
Yeah, David's definitely got that.
I got tonal privilege. Tonal privilege.
But, I think in a lot of ways it comes down to they feel entitled to it.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not doing that. Give me roundhouse brakes. I don't have, and it's like, once you're higher qualified, now I get the diag and I'm wasting all day on some, 2,000 mile, hasn't even been off the lot for a week and the radio don't work. The kid who PDI'd it didn't do it right. Like, so wait, you don't want to pay me to PDI it. You let this little kid PDI it. Now I got to re-PDI it because he didn't do it right. Like, there's things like that where it's like, if you do want to work at a dealership, I feel like you also need to kind of carry yourself in a certain kind of manner as well, even if that does get knocked off, in year 2 or something. But at least go in with like, not just coming in like, well, I show up at 8:15, even though I started at 8. Like, I don't have to put my lift up at the end of the night when they clean the floor. Like, why not? I've been doing this 10 years. I have to put my lift up. I have to put my hose up.
What sets you apart from me, right?
Yeah, like, exactly. Why can you not follow the rules, but I have to follow, and then I have to put it up for you? It's funny too, because my shift is 7 to 4, so I'm there first, and like I get there like 6:30, 6:45. Sometimes I have to stop and grab lunch at Giant, like just kind of prep. Right. I'd rather be there early, get the air on, get my lights on, get my time clock ready, like get that kind of stuff ready. When I go to SEMA, I'm sure the air is not going to be on until 7:30 when somebody's like, what happened? Doesn't work. Like,
where do I turn it on at?
There's a compressor. What is that? Like, it's you don't know until you know. I didn't know how to calibrate an emissions machine until it first locked out on me, and I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do? Start doing stuff? Okay, you do stuff. I mean, nobody knows until you're shown. So
exactly,
take heed when somebody's trying to show you. And if you do want to do this,
slow down and listen.
Slow down and listen. Oh, good points.
Yeah.
Good points.
So, what do you think about this training? You're here at Tools. Have you ever been to a training event like this?
No.
What do you think?
I am amazed, and I am so sad because I think I have to work next year.
Well-
but I'm going to get it. All right. So I met Lori a few months ago, and I just saw the post literally like 3.5 weeks ago, and I'm like, I told my wife, I'm like, babe, do we need a reason to go to Kalahari? Because like this is training, and
Right.
the kids and you can have a good time. I'll join you later. And I have been nothing but thrilled with both of my classes already today. I had like a solving difficult DTCs, and I just
that's
got
a
out.
Brandon Steckler class.
Yeah, and the last one was scan tool data. And I mean, it's just nice to get back into the groove of like seeing the paperwork, because when I do my 7 to 4 all day, it's whatever repair manual I'm in, or, I could just be doing 15, brake jobs, oil changes,
Right.
inspections, where you're not, diving into like the knowledge. I really want my L1. I already failed it once during COVID. So this is like my first step of like just trying to get back into the school mode of things, which is
Right.
something else that people fail to realize. Once you get out of tech school and into the grind, it's really hard to come back to the school part of it. And I was telling Lori as well, dealership training is not really offered to everybody. It's not what people think it is. You only get to go to school if you are, not proving, but like if you're performing well, if you
Right.
throw an ASE or two at them, like depending on what it is. I mean, there's a guy, I think he had 25 years at a tire shop. He came to the dealer about a year ago. They just sent him for an electrical class, and then he came home like, yeah, you got to do an amp test. I'm like, oh boy.
Oh,
like,
this got
yeah.
tough.
I'm like, what do you do? Like, and whatever he said, he's like, yeah, we measure it in milliohms or something. I'm like, wait, what? No. Like, and so it's like, yes, the schooling is great. I was lucky that during my UTI stay, I took the TPAT program, which is the T10 of the community colleges. So I had gotten 9 of 14 Toyota classes while I was at UTI, and then I was working at a Toyota dealership pretty much most of my whole entire UTI time. So by the time I got out, I was like, here's ASEs, here's this. And I remember my second day, I had this guy who was like 45 on the Express Lube. He was the Express Lube team leader, so that tells you where he got.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, what do you think you're doing here? And I was like, oh, they're going to send me to school. They're going to pay me. They're going to do this. They're going to do that.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, they ain't doing none of that. So I've been to Baltimore school 7 times. I'm actually going back on Tuesday for the new Tundra training. I'm going to be the new BZX4 tech at my shop, which is the new fully electric Toyota that's coming out. So like, they're like, we need an electric tech. I'm like, well, I'm already hybrid master, whatever. Let's go. Like, if it gets me more and gives me more, let's go. Like,
So let me ask you this, maybe partially because of your locale, but I mean, you look at Scanner Danner, right? You know who Scanner Danner is?
no, I just saw a shirt though.
You don't know who?
No, I don't. No, I'm telling you,
didn't
I've been
know
in the trenches.
Dealership. What are you like? Dude, that's a whole
I didn't
different
know,
world.
I didn't know anybody wouldn't know who Scanner Danner
I'm sorry,
is.
Scanner Danner. Let's meet.
Yeah. So Paul.
Is he here?
He's not here.
Okay, so
no.
somebody has a shirt on.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's extremely popular. Probably
Okay.
one of the biggest automotive YouTube channels in the world.
Nice.
Right? So basically, he teaches an entire.
Scotty Kilmer's bigger.
I will kick you the fuck out of this room. You won't even have to worry about going home. Your wife will be collecting insurance before she makes it to the end of the fucking parking lot. You've pissed me off. But so Paul runs probably the most in-depth.
Okay.
It is almost a complete YouTube channel and book that teaches an
Ooh.
entire college electrical course.
Really?
Okay. And so Paul just has an amazing way to teach.
Okay.
Okay. And so I would like to hear back from you in a couple months, because
Oh,
you'll
yeah.
go look this up and you'll get Scanner Danner Premium, or you'll start watching videos and case studies and you'll say, holy shit.
Oh, hell yeah.
Right. And so I guess my question for you as you watch this, and we talk about this later,
Okay.
I'd really like to know, do you think that these young kids might see something like Paul Danner's material and say, I connect with that?
I hope so.
understand that. I can take this and do something with it, as opposed to this formal training series and this formal concept of training that we have otherwise.
Right.
And so I'm really curious to see if you get a chance to look at it.
Oh, I
would
will.
really love some feedback and
Oh,
hear
I
what
will.
you think. Yeah. So
Yeah, because I think it's really great. I mean, I'm personally, I think, a more hands-on learner, visual, whether be it whatever. Sometimes like the Zoom, I wouldn't like want to sit in like a 5-hour Zoom and just like stare at it. But like if it was like, hey, we sent you this packet and this other little block, and I could work with you while we're doing it, that kind of stuff. I'm not sure how these new kids are learning. I mean, they are on the phone, so I'm gonna check this Scanner Danner out for sure.
I'm curious to see what you think,
because I do enjoy the Toyota training in the sense that I got to go to Baltimore. It's paid. It makes you feel validated. It makes you feel appreciated. I've gotten to take my family down there with me. I had hybrid for a week. So it was like, at the time when I was still only like 4 to 6 years into my career, it was like, going to Baltimore, let's go. Now I'm like, Poconos this week. I literally go home and go to Baltimore, but like, it's all for like, I asked my FTS, I'm like, when am I going back to school? He's like, you want to go to school? I'm like, yeah, why not? He's like, all right, you got a new Tundra class. So it's like, now I'm at the point in my career where like, I have paid my dues and I'm still trying to pay my dues. I do have a girl at my shop right now, and she's been with Toyota 3 years, and she came because she wanted to work with me and she wanted to like learn from me. And I was like, wow, that's like, how did you even find out about me? You know what I mean? Like even meeting Lori and Bogey and all these other people, I'm the only woman that I've been with. So all of a sudden it's like, to meet these other women that are in the industry, you're like, wow, there's more of you. You do body and you do this and electrical and mechanical and airplanes and motorcycles. I'm like, wow, there's not just me in my little hole just trenching it out day after day. It's been like a really eye-opening year for me.
That's so fantastic. Well, in closing, what's the one piece of advice or the one piece of feedback you'd give your industry today?
I would say we all need to slow down and listen. And really just start respecting each other, whatever level tech you are, wherever you're going to go. If everybody would just slow down and listen, there's a lot of really good ideas on the table, and I think that a lot of people are missing them. I was telling Lori, I think we need to get more dealer techs here, just because this event alone is just a nice group together. Like I haven't really gotten to talk to a lot of the guys, but the people I met last night, they're going to SEMA too. This is my first trip to SEMA, so I'm like, wow, what are the odds the first people we meet are going to be there? And they're like, we were there, let's go. So, I mean, this is just like, it's a bigger world than we all realize.
Well, that is fantastic. I will be at Apex, watch some Scanner Danner. We'll sit down and we'll talk about it there.
All right, that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
I got some homework.
That's it. Nice meeting you, and thank you for being here.
So nice meeting you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Little different this time. I told myself that money would never be a factor. Now I'm laughing at Benny Hanna's with benefactors. Sell my soul for an artist's love with them giant raptors. My chef cooking that steak and lobster on giant platters. Forsaking all again for this path I'm after. Path to disaster and saved by the master. I'm hearing they laughter, Drunk off my own grapes, yes I'm blasted. Pockets is fatter. Without peace, what does it matter? Manifesting this madness. My career's center stage, you just a sideshow. Carrying the shame everywhere that I go. Ain't no way this can continue, I know. But do I want that mercy or that mercy lie go? I'm flawed.